This episode of the Class E podcast is a special episode taped in front of a live studio audience. Our guests, Furman Athletic Director Jason Donnelly and Furman's Chief Innovation Officer and Director for the Hill Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, Anthony Herrera, joined me for a conversation about the innovation that landed Furman University on the list of the most innovative universities in the country. Here is that conversation. Gentlemen, I think everybody in this room probably understands the importance of branding. And I want to talk about what Furman does well in the branding department. So, which one of you would like to take that first?
Well, guys, I want to get started first. How many people want to see Paul Foster dance? Because that was where did Paul go? So before he.
All right.
So we had Justin Timberlake going on. We had that going. I want to thank Paul Foster, but also want to thank all of you for coming out. It's a great morning. It's great to be here with all of you. This is awesome. So I'm just really fired up. And it's a great opportunity. I want to thank Anthony, guys. We're really blessed, in my mind, when we talk about innovation, entrepreneurship, when we talk about athletics, to have a great partner in Anthony. When I got here, Anthony had a lot of hubbub. I read an article. He talked about our economic development, the things that we're doing at Furman, the impact we're having on Greenville. And I was like, I can't wait to meet this Anthony guy. And then it took a little while before we got together. And people warned us. They said, when you guys get together, it's going to kind of be like popcorn popping. Like there's just going to be this crazy energy that's going on. And we get into conversations. We're just moving and doing and thinking and big. All these different things that go on. But I really thank Anthony for having me. I want to thank our president, Elizabeth Davis, for being here and her leadership and everything that she's empowering us to do in our space. It's greatly appreciated and thoughtful. I want to thank Ed Good, and there's a number of trustees that are here that support everything we do. But I'll get the conversation started on branding. I think we're in a great spot. And the way that I look at Furman is kind of how I looked at. I've got here about 2 years ago, and doing some investigation on what Furman was all about. The thing that you know about Furman, if you're not from Greenville or if you're not a Furman alumnus, is you know about its great academic prestige. You know it's the #1 private school in South Carolina. You know about what it brings to the table. The other things you learn about with Furman is it's got great alumni network. There is a great passion, history, tradition. Some of that will come through sports. We'll talk about that in a little bit later. But you know that Furman is respected. You know that Furman is elite. You know that Furman has got a great history to what it is. And it's also part of the city that Paul talked about, that it's in this great city of Greenville that has grown and has become this incredible place. My thoughts on Furman, taking this opportunity from a branding perspective, is I thought Furman's awesome, but not enough people know about Furman. And that's not a fault. That's sometimes what happens when you're talking about a business, when you're talking about an industry, when you're talking about an institution, is that sometimes in your quest to be great, in your quest to be excellent, you get really focused on the inside. And there's so much that you've got to do when you're talking about your business that you got to focus on the outside. So for those of you that are running businesses and you think about what your brand recognition, so I'm looking around the room at friends, and whether you're running Southern Press, or you're running the Greenville Drive, or if you're in Michelin, or if you're in BMW, whatever your business is you got to think about the things that you're known for. So on our side of it, and the way that we partner with Anthony, is we're focused on one simple theme, and that is academic and athletic excellence. And that we are pursuing a brand, when we're talking about Furman, that we are starting with an exceptional undergraduate education through the Furman Advantage. Exceptional, one of the best in the country. That's our building block where we start from. We start from our brand of great alumni passion and interest in Furman, and we say, how do we grow that? How do we build on this with what we do? So when we look at our model, we look at our academic and athletic excellence model, we know that in our conference, we have the highest admission standards, the highest academic standards, and we have the highest competitive standards internally of what we're looking to do, and we embrace that. Other people may say they don't want that. There'll be other coaches, athletic directors, student athletes that don't want that model. At Furman, we want that model. We want to embrace what is excellence, and we want to help build a city and a brand around our institution that fits who we are going to be.
So, Anthony, how does innovation play into that?
Well, I think, first of all, I want to say I'm going to go ahead. I know we just talked about excellence. Thank you, Jason, and setting me up for that. So I sent this presentation to Sean in the back. Thank you for Sean for coordinating this about 10:30 last night. And I was really worried because it's a bunch of pictures. And I was like, and then you're going to get us three up on stage and we're not going to stay in order. So I'm going to be like flipping back and forward just to get the pictures lined up for our topic. So I'm going to go ahead and say, bear with me on that, but what is innovation, right? We're going to adapt here. It means, marginal increases, right? Is this improving 1% every day, right? We always think of innovation as this huge leap. In innovation, Greenville is a hub for innovation. I remember when I came here about 4 years ago when President Davis asked me to come and test out the landscape. I met with Craig Brown, I met with Prisma Health, I met with some city leaders, Mayor White, I don't know if he's here today. I was having lunch with him yesterday, and we were just talking about organically how all the pieces are coming together for Greenville to be a national hub of innovation. But the key part of that, right, there's three components that require a city, a region to be innovative. It's one, civic stakeholders, all on the same agenda. Two, you got to have big corporate. So I want to thank all of our corporate partners here. We got several banks, Ernst & Young, Michelin Floor, Southern First, so great. You got to be a part of this. And then the academic institutions, right? And that's where, President Davis said, hey, look, we got to come in. We got to be intentional. We got to come out into the community and bring the assets we have as a university to help create this culture of innovation. And so that's what's going on, right? And I want to applaud. I mean, how many of you have been watching the news, the media, what's going on here in Greenville? Just show of hands, how many of you have seen just an increase of talks about innovation and entrepreneurship, right? Right. Congrats, right? I don't want to say that to, we got some great city leadership. Some of it here today. We've got Merle Johnson of the Economic Development. Under his leadership, John McDonough of the city, who have intentionally come out here with an agenda to say we have to raise the bar, right? Our livelihoods, right? When we think about some of the greatest challenges that our community's facing, right? Income inequality, affordable housing, public transportation, it's going to come from individuals right in our community, right? The solutions are going to come from founders and entrepreneurs, but they're only going to come if we work together as stakeholders to bring all the assets, right? No longer can we win just as our own organization, right? We're so interdependent. And so that's what's exciting. So I look at innovation as 1% improvement every day, and two, collaborating across stakeholders.
So since the two of you have been here, if you've looked at either one of their bios, then you know some of the things that they've accomplished since they've been here. You guys are definitely idea men, but you also carry things through. So I want to talk about the importance of not only having the idea, but taking it and running with it and taking action on it. Jason, we'll start with you on that.
Yeah, so kind of a basic premise of what we're looking to do, and I talk about this with our staff all the time, is the ideas of innovation and our place in this and where do we fit in. And it really, for me, it's think big or go home. There's a friend of mine that ran a business, and he would say it to me every day, every time we talk, he said, think big or go home. And our job is not to think what the past was, what the present is. We've got to have the thought, the innovative thoughts of where we're headed as a city, as a business, as an industry, as an institution. So an example of this, and sometimes I joke because I think sometimes my staff thinks I'm a little bit crazy, and I say, I want that. I want to make you uncomfortable. I want to make you nervous. I want to have you think outside the box. I said, if you're not nervous about what we're doing, then we're not doing our job in terms of where we're going. I think my first or second day in the job, we spent the day as a senior administrative team with Elizabeth and Heidi and Tom Evelyn as our staff, and we came down into Greenville, and it was intentional. And we came into the city and we visited the different industries. We visited with the mayor. We visited with the economic development team. We went to all of our corporate sponsorships. We drove around. And for me, it was almost serendipitous because here this great opportunity was just given to us right in front of us. And it was so obvious. And for me, this is my first day on the job. And the connection with Furman and Greenville, the intentionality of how we've got to work together and partner, and how Furman can serve the community, and how we can mix and blend our interests. So one of these stops along the way was the Secours Wellness Arena, which is an NCAA tournament site this year. You saw how it was in 2018-19 when Duke and South Carolina played there. You saw the energy. You saw the vibe. You saw the growth of what this city could be. Well, I saw the same thing. And I come from a culture where when you play an athletic game, it's not a success unless you sell out. And it's just this mentality that when you walk into the gym, unless every seat is taken, and the same thing with a football stadium, it's not a success until it's a sellout. So our ticket manager, Dwight Covington, is here. He knows this because this is all we talk about. Aaron Wissing from our advancement team knows this in terms of how we approach things and how we attack them. So we began overnight, day one, we're going to play here weekends at the Well. And we cast this vision of what we can do. And the intentionality of it wasn't to say we need to play games in a downtown arena. It was how do we pull Greenville together under one flag. So before we do this, we also have to know the history and tradition. I wouldn't have been crazy enough to take this idea on if Furman hadn't had a history in Memorial Auditorium and hadn't played with great success with Joe Williams and hadn't won championships in Greenville in the past. So the pride and the history of the past leads to the decision of where we are. I wouldn't have taken this on in terms of our leadership if there wasn't success with the Greenville Drive. of what they've done in this community and how they've changed the West End. So you've got to know these things in terms of where we're headed. We wouldn't take it on if football hadn't played in Serene Stadium and had that kind of history. So one of our crowning moments, we talk about not just the idea, then the plan, and guys, this is a lot of stakeholders. This is pulling all the different units on our campus together to believe in one single thing that could advance us and to have the success of playing a Wofford game with the lower bowl filled and the whole thing, and the students rushing the court on a last-minute shot, and to have everyone in the concourse as you're walking around saying thank you. Thank you for bringing Furman back to Greenville. It's not basketball. Some people aren't even basketball fans. Basketball is the driver. Basketball is the opportunity, but it's the opportunity for us to come together as a city and to begin to operate under one flag and think about those different things. I will tell you this also. My wife is a really good barometer for me. I think big. She likes to focus on the smaller details. We went to Disney on Ice with our family. When we first got here, we walked into the arena. She goes, man, I wouldn't want to try to fill this thing. You're crazy. So even in my own home, I'm getting constantly checked in terms of what we think. Another idea that we took on is we need to share our football with our community at a higher level. And we need to do a better job at Furman. It's okay, one of the things as a point of emphasis in innovation and entrepreneurship, to have fun. It's okay to do those things and to think differently about it. And we've gotten great support from our leadership and from our trustees to say, how can we reinvigorate our community and make our campus fun for our students? So we went through a process of exploring game days in Greenville on our campus and knowing we're not Clemson and we're not trying to be Clemson. We're trying to be the best Furman we can be. And this past year, we led the Southern Conference in attendance. We had over 10,000 fans per game going through this. We reinvigorated our student body with tailgating, and we listened to them. These ideas weren't our own. We went to student government and said, what would get you to the games? What would make you happy? And really it came down to one thing, tailgating, and we listened to our alumnus, and some of them like beer. So we have beer in a football stadium. Who knew that would be such a difference? But we also used our partners, and we worked closely with Ingalls, and we integrated a concert series and food trucks and bouncy castles, and we changed the feeling. So now when the band comes through a parking lot, they're not coming through an empty parking lot. They're coming through a parking lot full of energy and attention and those type of things. The last thing we did that was an action item was the evolution of the Furman Athletic Fund. And we're in the middle of a campaign, or the beginning of a campaign, depending on how we say it. And we're getting aggressive with our philanthropic model to be very clear and intentional about our vision, about what we need, and how we need to be supported by our stakeholders. We're in an environment in college athletics where we can no longer support our operation by ourselves on the backs of tuition dollars. We do not have a multi-million-dollar football team that's going to provide all these resources to pay for our operations. So we've got to be intentional and thoughtful about these things. So going through the process of developing a Furman Athletic Fund that makes it very intentional for people to give to what they want to give to. So if you're a basketball donor and you want to support basketball, we're grateful and thankful for that. If you're a soccer donor and you want to support soccer, great. If you're a tennis donor and you want to support tennis, or if you just care about scholarships and the things that we do, we've created opportunities so that we can make the most of our fan base, and we're having record-breaking numbers in those different categories. So it's just having a plan, it's being innovative, it's being strategic, but the most important part of it is what you said, Mary, you got to put it into action. You can't just say it, you've got to do it.
Ideas are nothing without action, right? Anthony, I want you to take that same question from the Furman Institute, the Hill Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Furman, and what you've done with that since you've been here, because we just finished one of our programs, Greenville Starts, which was amazing. We had like 26 cohorts. I see some of them in the audience today. Some great entrepreneurial ideas coming out of that program and all of our programs.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason's so right. When you think about putting ideas into action. I remember when I first started at Furman, I went to our provost and I said, if I come into your office and you say yes more than you say no, I'm not doing my job, right? I'm not pushing us, right? That means we're still doing the same thing. And so I said, that's on me to come with big ideas, to stretch us out, right? To come outside from Furman's campus into the community, right? So through athletics, we're doing both of those, right? We're coming downtown through the well, and we're bringing you to the game day experience on campus. Now, as in line with our mission of being lifelong learners, right? Creating lifelong learners and transformational experiences, what does that look like, right? We know that not everybody is going to be a traditional undergrad student at Furman, right? But what we do know is we have a responsibility to our community, right? Greenville wins if Furman comes and contributes in educational transformational experiences. And so I was sitting with our city leadership about 2 years ago, and we were talking about What's going on? What's the challenges right now, right? We have a lot. How many of you are entrepreneurs in here, have your own business? I see several of you. Look at this hands, right? That's a great number. But what's our challenge, right? Our challenge, when we start talking about income inequality, affordable housing, public transit, all these issues that we're facing, it's going to require that we have more founders into question, right? A lot of that is because founders are going to create jobs, they're going to create opportunity, they're going to create transformation. So we started to see there was a drying up of the pipeline, right? Greenville's vibrancy is going to be dependent on us having a large pipeline of founders, not only from us recruiting them from across the country, across the globe, but also growing them right here. And so as we started talking about this, I said, okay, well, we're an educational institution. How can we help with that? And so we partnered. We came up with this idea about 2 years ago called Greenville Starts. And it finally launched this fall. How many of you heard about it? We got some participants in the back, right, that came. Some of them came from Charleston all the way every day, or twice a week, to come to this program, right? Because what they saw was Greenville was not only a hub of resources, but now it had an educational program that was going to help propel them to launch their idea, right? To take an idea into action. And so this program, dreamed up with the support of the City of Greenville, the Greenville Local Development Corporation, South Carolina Commerce Department, as well as Venture South, came together. Over 40 plus applicants applied for this in the first time. We had 25 go through the program and graduate with a demo day right down here, right behind Methodical Coffee in the old Bank of America building. We reinvigorated that, right? It was a vibrant 150, 200 people came to support these new founders, these new entrepreneurs. Really, from a Furman perspective, was new alum, right? They're part of our family, right? When I look out at this audience, some of you came through our undergrad program, some of you come through our Ollie program, some of you now have come through our Greenville Starts, some of you are just friends, but we're all part of the family, right? We're all Furman family. And Greenville wins when we work together in taking ideas and launching them. And so that's so critical, right? The other idea that we announced a couple of months ago is now taking this transformational learning experience and putting it right downtown, right? And so you're going to see in January, we're opening up Furman 101. How many of you have heard about it? How many of you knows what I'm talking about, right? Just a handful, right? You probably, the rest of you are like, what is he talking about? When does the coffee come back out? So Furman 101, right here in the plaza, right? Organically, what's happening right here on this block? It's becoming an innovation hub, right? You have 2 colleges right here located. I'm not going to mention the other one, but Furman is the other. And we're going to be right here in a premier location. And we're not here just to open up a bookstore or sell t-shirts. We're here to launch an education innovation space, right? Where we're going to help the community. We're going to run workshops. Starting in January, you're going to see workshops in innovation leadership, adaptive leadership, women's leadership, diversity leadership, all coming out right here at the heart of downtown, right? Because if we can do what we do well, right? Developing leaders, innovative leaders, right? In the community, Greenville's going to win, right? But we have to take action. It's new. It's a little uncomfortable. We haven't done it, this way, but we're coming out, right? And it's only going to be successful if, one, we're inclusive, right? We need all of you, the family, to come get involved with us in this journey and tell us what your needs are, right? I've been very fortunate in my job. The last 2 weeks, I've met with like 4 or 5 CEOs, different levels of global organizations, trucking companies, and the number one issue going on right now is talent, right? Recruiting, retaining, and developing. And really at the heart of it, it's developing, right? Because it's about cultures right now. And if you develop innovative leaders who create inclusive cultures, you're going to be able to retain your talent. If you retain your talent, you're going to be able to recruit talent. And I think Furman is going to be the driving force for Greenville in this space. And I think if we do that right, we win big.
I agree with that completely. Jason?
One of the things that Anthony said that he talks about a lot, and this is a concept for Furman, is the concept of lifelong learning. And Furman is built, and this is a really unique thing, is that they've got programming from 3 years old all the way up to 95. I don't know what happens at 96, so watch out. But we have we've got the programming for young children. We've got the programming for our community in terms of the elementary schools, middle schools, the Heller service, all the things that take place that we do there. We've got the phenomenal undergraduate education. We're working on growing this. We have master's programs, but growing this. So this is kind of a combined vision of where we see this making implementation. And then we have everyone where you are. We have all the different tentacles of the different people that have an association or an invested interest in Furman. And you have your own interests. You have your own businesses. You have your own investments. You have things that are important to you. But how do we collaborate and how do we work together to strengthen those partnerships and to strengthen those bonds? And that's really what the whole beauty of this whole concept of Greenville is how do we become the institution that supports all these things together and the mobilization. So one of the things that we look at from this standpoint as we look at, we have X amount of students that make this impact in this community. And whether that's through jobs or internships, whether that's through community service, whether that's through civic engagement, and we have a faculty and a staff, and we have alumni, and we have season ticket holders, we have parents. And you start taking what this whole thing is, and the impact of an institution can be great. And when there's alignment in a city the way that it is here, a growing city that Paul talked about, the way where we're going, and these opportunities are in front of us, it just creates this sense of power and inclusiveness of what we can be. So the two of us are really invigorated and excited about this because we think that this can be the external arm for how we all connect back to each other and how we make all these things happen through Furman, just through the connections of the city, through us providing that service, through talent, through people, through industry, through leadership, but also for security for where we're going and to have a long-term vision for what we want this to be. But that's the lifelong learner. We didn't even talk about our OLLI programs. We've got thousands of people that are senior citizens here that are moving into this city that are participating in an OLLI program as retirees that want to be a part of this, that want to engage, and there's a successful mechanism to do it. So we have the infrastructure to do it, and now we've got to mobilize our resources and put it all together.
Yeah, that leads me to my next question. Both of you dove into it just a little bit, but I want to take a deeper dive into, it's well known, we have great partnerships with the city of Greenville, and we send 300 plus students and faculty every year through the Herrera Service Corps to volunteer internships with local businesses, so we have partnerships there. We bring businesses into our classrooms to help teach our students. And so we have all of that going on in some of the programs that you mentioned, but what do we still need to do?
Yeah, absolutely. When you think about this lifelong learner, which I just think is a theme, it's our mission, right? It's what we're about. We have to connect talent, right? So I want to give a shout out because we have about 6 or 8 students here and student athletes. I always felt, I didn't like that term because I wasn't a student athlete, so thank you. So they got up early. Half of them I had to make sleep at my house, so I knew they were here at 7 a.m. But they're here, they greeted you. They're committed not only to Furman and their educational experience, but they're actually more committed to Greenville thriving, right? Half of them interned this summer working on an ecosystem mapping and trying to figure out how does Furman and Greenville move forward through this lens of innovation and entrepreneurship. And so that's the key, right? When we talk about this talent pipeline, is getting them to stay here. The data is out there. The research shows that when cities have a vibrant university connected and intimately involved, and we're going to talk about, we know a couple of models that we've seen, intimately involved in the city, it wins. It wins big because of talent, because of technology, because of research. And so we know Greenville's success is Furman's success, and Furman's success is Greenville's success. And so we are very intentional, but this is nothing new, right? Not only do we have over 300 students volunteering in the community through our Herrera Service Corps, Jason, you mentioned we have over about 2,800 in the OLLI program. That's a lot of seniors and retirees who are coming, who are in our community. There's folks I meet every week who move from across the country to Greenville. I say, what are you doing here? And they say, well, because of OLLI at Furman, right? So that's a talent inflow, an expertise, and a network. But then you think about our 4 institutes, right? We talked about branding and what Furman wants to be known for, not only as first-class athletics and first-class educational, liberal arts education, but when you talk about, we have 4 distinct institutes, right? Many of you are familiar with the Riley Institute, right? And the public policy and the education policy that they do, as well as the diversity leadership, right? Over 2,300 leaders across the country have gone through the Diversity Leadership Institute at Furman. Right? Talk about the impact that is transforming companies and organizations and their cultures to be more inclusive and more innovative. Second, we got our Shy Institute for Sustainability, right? This center of excellence on our campus that is helping not only our students and equipping them for careers to drive sustainability initiatives within organizations, but also starting to partner. In fact, I think they just are working on or wrapping up the city's sustainability plan. Right? That's intentionality. That's Furman coming and say, we have an expertise, city has a need, we can come out and contribute. Right? Our Institute for the Advancement of Community Health, right? It was great partnerships. They listed the partnerships that I couldn't put them up on a slide. It was just too many. But transforming the advancement of community health for our communities, right? For those underrepresented, underserved communities. And yes, we've got great healthcare systems, but it took an academic partner to come along and kind of accelerate what that work is going to be doing. And now the Hill Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, right? And so when you talk about what are we doing and how we're going to be more intentional, it's really going to show through us not only showing up physically, but also now putting a flag, right? And so you probably heard about a month ago, we announced a phenomenal project, a project that has been 3 years in the making, and it's an innovation district, right? It's Creston Startup Community. How many of you heard about it, saw it in the news, right? It's excited. How many of you are excited? Show of hands who's excited. All right, can we get an applause, a standing ovation? I'm just kidding. All right. This here is going to be connecting Furman to downtown, right? How many, that's exciting, right? We need that. That is a community that needs attention. It needs resources. It needs opportunity. And it's going to take a collaborative, innovative partnership. And so what you're going to see over the next year, I think this thing's going to open up. Fred Dilworth, he's representing Hartness Development back there, putting you on the spot. This thing's going to open fall of 2023, 22? 22, there we go. It's on the record. And this is on the podcast too.
Anthony just moved it up a year. That's what he does. It was opening in 23. He just say 22. It's done. 22. He just moved.
There you go. Right. You got collaborative partnerships, right? You got you're going to have South Carolina Research Authority moving in there, right? They're going to be, this is their arm that's investing in the state. You got Venture South, right? One of the top 10 angel investment groups in the country, headquartered here in Greenville, and they're going to locate there. You got Furman leading out as the convener of all these partners. And then Flywheel, a co-working space that's going to operate it. This thing is going to be kind of a central hub, not only for Greenville and the upstate, but for the state, maybe even the region. But what does that mean? What does that look like? Again, it's that lifelong learner. Not everybody is going to come to the traditional undergrad experience, but everybody has a place at Furman to be part of the family. And if we can continue to bring our assets into the community, we're going to start to have an impact that is transformational for years to come.
Right. So how can the folks in this room take advantage of and help us in this mission?
Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect segue. One of the things that Anthony alluded to is a book, and I look at Dave Ellison, who's leading our athletics campaign, because he just gave us his feedback on this book. There's a book called The Cinderella Strategy that details the steps that Butler University went through in terms of how they kind of rose to prominence as an institution and different things. And again, all these things go backwards. The Furman was here 200 years ago. Furman was a part of this community in terms of what it's been and the impact. And most of you are here because whether you're John Plyler and your father built the campus, and Susan Shy, and part of the presidential piece here, and the trustee, Judge Traxler. I mean, there's a feeling from within of what your pride is in Furman that takes place. But then it's the strategy of how do we organize and put all these things together. And there's a line inside the book, and it's something that's been said by their president, Jim Danko, and he talks about that every great city deserves a great private institution. And what that private institution allows us to do is to mobilize the interest of our community, mobilize the interest of the institution, mobilize the future of where we're going. It's the connector. And Anthony just said it, is that if there's something that's important in this community that we want to do together, it's the mobilization of this talent, of these people, of this theory, all the different things that allows this to connect itself and move forward. It's also a showcase. You should know that as a part of this process, that as people are flying through, as Paul talked about, as they're coming down Main Street and they're checking out what this is, and they want to know what these businesses are, so they want to talk about moving here, but they take a stop on their way through Furman and they check out that campus. They want to know those things. But there's a national piece that's really important to it. And Paul referenced that when he talked about the opportunity to beat a team such as a Louisville, or to beat a team such as a North Carolina, or to beat a Villanova, whatever it would be, is all these great opportunities for the national recognition. But we've got to align with strategies, and we've got to think about how do we mobilize these things. But when you're a top 5 city, it's not by accident. It's all the work that you've been doing in your respective businesses, in your respective areas, but it's this opportunity for engagement. It's this opportunity for alignment. It's this opportunity for notoriety for where our city is and where we're going. And we're seeing this on a national level of those who rise are those who have to have prominence. We've got to invest. We've got to invest even further in our time and our talent and our resources to allow these opportunities to happen for a Furman leading the way, for a Greenville working together. And that's the importance of all these partnerships that we begin to develop with each other.
Anthony, you mentioned something a moment ago I want to circle back around to, and that was we have our eye on people around the country, institutions around the country, who are doing this well. Who are we looking at?
Well, I think when you look at from a university, a liberal arts college, I think we're leading out, right? In fact, you mentioned the Cinderella, what's the book called?
Cinderella Strategy.
The Cinderella Strategy by Butler. Dave Ellison called me about 2 weeks ago, and he said, you got to hear about this book. It's about Butler and their strategy and how they've, really intentionally connected to the community through athletics and basketball. And I think you called me like at 9:30, 9:45 in the morning. But at 8 in the morning, I was on a call with 2 Butler leaders saying, we've been watching what you're doing through innovation and entrepreneurship, connecting into the city. Can we have your blueprint?
They asked us, right?
They asked us, right? And, I don't want to say we get it all right, because we don't. But that's the challenge. We cannot be scared to step out. We're going to make mistakes.
Right.
But the risk today for our community and for our university is greater if we don't step out and take those risks. And so that's what's so exciting. That's why I think a lot of you are here today, right? We see so many people who've gone out, right? I look over here, the Hughes, Bob, Robert, you have been so transformational for the city. This facility is amazing, right? Give them a hand of applause, because this is amazing, right? What you've done, right? I met Bob my first day. I didn't even know how he was connected to Furman. I think Elizabeth had me interview with him, and I was like, is he interviewing with me? Does he make the final decision? And then I go from his office and I go meet with Craig Brown, right? And Craig, what you've done with the drive and the community and your support, this is exciting. This is inspiring, right? It's inviting, right? They always say, hey, look, we're moving Greenville forward. And Furman's a big part of that, and we need you. And so it's inviting. So when I look at it, what's our secret sauce? It's our people. I think we have one of the most collaborative communities in this country, right? And we have people who want to help out and support. We have leaders who want to help out and support. And I think we're going to look back in about 3 to 5 years, and it's going to be transformational. Greenville, Furman, it's going to be big.
Well, I wanted to talk too, because I think we've been, with COVID, we've been in a very transformational time, right? And some people have made it and some people have not. Jason, I wanted your observations on that, because it really affected athletics, meaning that a lot of schools didn't even have their seasons. We moved all 13 of our seasons to the spring last spring. That had to be a feat.
Yeah, and this is something I'm comfortable talking about, because sometimes people get uncomfortable with difficult situations. We embrace difficult situations, and I know that's one of those things you may or may not want to take on, but it's no secret we went through some challenging times with COVID. And it wasn't anything that was unintentional. It had to do with where we were from an enrollment standpoint, where we had to do through a financial crisis, all those different things. But we embraced those things. So I think when you go through challenges, so this is more specific to your business, we all know what this is. All of us had these conversations. We all talked about, where are you in your respective business in terms of how you're handling COVID? Where are you with your marketing? Where are you with your engagement? Where are you with your enrollment? Whatever your business model is, we all discussed what this is. And the things that I'm really proud about with Furman is that we took the difficult course of taking them head on, and we took them on early, because we knew what we had to do. We knew we had to adapt to difficult circumstances. We knew we had to adjust our model, and we knew we had to press forward. And that's really strong leadership, and that's really strong accountability. And what I'm talking about is decisions on our athletic profile. When I got to Furman from day one, it was unfortunate. I looked at the balance sheet, and I didn't fully understand until I got in the job, but I said, we're overcommitted and underfunded. And that's a really difficult thing to work through when you're an institution, to say, we're probably we're too big. We're trying to handle too much. So knowing that was the background. The hard part is that, our leadership talks a lot about a runway to success. When you look at a problem situation, you've got to figure out how you're going to land it. Well, usually you got X amount of years to get it. Well, COVID took that away for all of us. It took the ability for us to make long-term planning decisions away, and it forced us to make short-term decisions to say, we're going to have to adapt to these things and make these decisions. We went from being a 20-sport profile to being an 18-sport profile. And part of that was to have a more strategic plan that would align us with having 18 sports of excellence, while also managing not just financial challenges, but gender equity legality, the law. Sometimes when you're making decisions, you're actually flying in the face of the law without even knowing it, until you do an audit or you take a harder look at what you're doing. So we went through this process, and then through that process, we also handled the pain. Part of that process was that as we handled difficult decisions that impacted Greenville and impacted things that we love, we had to be honest and transparent and handle every last conversation and every last difficult moment with sincerity. And I take a lot of pride in this. I look at Aaron Wissing, who helped us through this process, and every day to be honest, to be authentic, and to figure out where you're going. Well, the next part of that is you got to lay out a vision. And you got to be really clear about what your vision is and what you're going to do. And then you got to be able to ask for help. And you got to figure out where we're going. So a point of pride for us is we've reached a point where we know where we are as a smaller athletic department. We're one of the smallest athletic programs in Division I. So we know that as an institution. We have to really focus on revenue generation and the growth of our department in terms of where we're headed. And that's why we talk about the importance of the weekends at the well. We talk about the importance of the football game day, our Furman Athletic Fund. Those are our growth drivers in our space. Our corporate sponsorships are off the charts. We've gone from a point where we were thinking small to thinking big, and people see that because they want to be associated with the Furman brand that Anthony's speaking to. Is that this is a special thing when you think about it relative to where we're going. The other thing we had to be really thoughtful about was we had to look at our model and be honest with our investors and honest with our stakeholders that we can't afford this. We can't afford to do what we've been doing. It's no one's fault how we got here. It's just what it is. And to reach out to our investors and to ask them to invest. And that's why I look at a Paul Foster. I look at a Dave Ellison. I look at an Ed Good, the people that are in the room. And if I don't see you here, I can't see you. But there's people here that invested with us, Jason Richards, the people that are here that believe in what we're doing. We just had a really significant moment and announcement yesterday. Yesterday, we announced a $5 million gift that supports the philanthropic investment in scholarships for our men's and women's cross-country and track and field team. Thank you. And the significance of this is that we now have a program that is fully funded by donor dollars. $20 million will be in this investment, this endowment. And it funds every single scholarship of a team that is going to the national championships. They're there now. I'm going tonight. And they're competing in the national championships for cross-country track and field at Furman. So we're talking about a program that is competing at the highest possible level in what we do. It's similar to our women's golf program. We had the National Player of the Year in women's golf 2 years ago. But sometimes this isn't heard. And I'll talk about how we get the word out. But this is a significant accomplishment for Furman because we're rebuilding the model of what the expectation is going to be for athletics going forward, where it becomes a stakeholder model, where it becomes an investment, where we're no longer relying on tuition dollars from students who are paying to go to school, but we're paying through philanthropy. Now, here's the thing about this donor that made this gift. This is Chris and Andrea Bork. And Chris is an aggressive businessman, and he has very certain standards that he wants. So you have to be in line with everything he wants. And trustees that know him are laughing because you know Chris. But Chris is passionate, and he believes in the impact of a phenomenal undergraduate education and the transformative power of what that can be. One of the things I really take a lot of pride in at Furman is that Furman can deliver financial aid to 100% of the students that we bring in. That is so rare and unique. That means if you work hard to have an opportunity to be a great student or a great athlete or a person of great impact, you can go to Furman and receive this education. So we're not talking about this elitist education that people can't get. This is an opportunity for those who want to strive and work towards something really special you can get. The genius of this gift is that he's smart enough to know the endowment and the great work by our endowment team will actually outpace inflation. So as this gift continues to grow on its own, it's actually going to tick up additional scholarships until they max out at 30. That's going to happen. He's already got all the math figured out. He's got the investments figured out. He's got the growth figured out. So he's a genius. And he's 3 steps ahead of everyone in terms of what he's doing. But it provides an example, not just to Furman, but nationally, of what is possible with the investment in athletic scholarships to take away the tuition dollars to make it possible for people to have a great education and to compete at a national level. It's just a phenomenal opportunity. But that's just an example of us adapting difficult circumstances, handling it head on with transparency, honesty, a plan, and taking it forward to something that we can sustain for success in the future.
Even beyond Furman, I mean, just from last year's graduating class, I think we have 3 track and field folks who are gone pro and now are members of pro teams.
It's just like,
Adidas and Nike and such.
Mary's real question to me is, how did you play all your sports in one season? That's what she was asking. And I was like, we just did it.
We tried to cover it in our broadcasting class.
Oh, it was exhausting. I mean, we had major burnout. We had major, we were working 7 days a week for 4 straight months, and there was no choice. And people ask us, how are you going to do it? We're just going to do it. All of you know at some point in your careers or in your families or in your health that there's been stress that requires you to give a 7-day-a-week commitment. There's no day off. That's just what it was. And then we had to come back and we had to look at, okay, what did we do well? What did we not do well? We had to evaluate ourselves. We had to handle issues that came up through that. But as I look back on it, our retention was still strong. Our retention of student athletes, our retention of staff, our retention of coaches, and did it impact us? Yes. But did we do it? Yeah. If there's a challenge, we'll take it on and we'll figure out where we go.
Yeah. Anthony, why don't you take that question as well?
About pivoting, yes. When the pandemic happened, everything shut down, right? We were a college campus. We sent everybody home, and the team, we get on our Zoom. We start to figure out how to use the chat box and how to use the emojis in there. And I said, look, we got to help, right? And we launched within like 3 weeks a series called Leading in Times of Crisis, right? And this was like, can we bring our network, our wealth of facilitators, business leaders, speakers, and do a 6-week, speaker series teaching our organizations right here in the upstate how to pivot, how to adapt, how do you make difficult decisions, right? Because what we knew, everybody went home, right? I was talking to business leaders and they're saying, I don't know what to share with our employees. I don't know where the money's going to come. Do we tell them now or do we tell them when we have to cut them, right? I don't know how to have a strategy session. And so we just kind of put a curriculum together. We went live. I think we had over 1,000 people. Some people came in from South Africa via Zoom and in China, zooming in to these Leading in Times of Crisis series that we did. And so we quickly said, hey, we're not going to sit at home and just wait for this to be over. We need to step up. We got to help. And we have a platform and we have resources. Second, we said, we're not going to stay home and just wait for this to pass us. We doubled down. We got a great team. We got a rockstar team. We got Brian Davis up there. He joined us about 2.5 years ago. Brian has been downtown almost every day since the pandemic started, right? And we talk about this every day. It's like, hey, we're going to show up. We're going to help. We're going to meet with the city. We're going to say, what do you need? And how do we move this forward, right? And so what we pivot and say, okay, we may not be able to do all the activities that we could on campus, but we can do the activities we need to in the community, and somebody has to step up. And so that was kind of what our philosophy was in innovation entrepreneurship was, let's show up and let's roll up our sleeves and see who needs help and how can we help. And so I think we had our greatest strides, right? We launched this institute 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago. A year and a half of that was during a pandemic. And we got a donor step up to name the institute. So we're now the Hill Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Right, so to go through that in that quick of a time in 3 years, but they were watching, right? They were watching about impact. They wanted to see growth and impact for our students and opportunity, but then they wanted to see Furman's impact in the community. And they saw that with all the programs and activities. And so that's really what we doubled down. We doubled down on showing up, delivering, and investing in a quality team and rockstar leaders like Brian Davis.
And by the way, if you missed that program, Leading in Times of Crisis, it's on the Class E podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast.
You're good.
Always getting that brand in there. Let's broaden that just a little bit and talk about the future of higher ed in general and where Furman fits into that.
Awesome. I get the big one?
You get the big
Chief
one.
Innovation Officer, right? We know there's so much converging right now in higher ed, right? This is the most transformational time in higher ed. Therefore, it's the most transformational time for Furman, and it's then the transformational time for Greenville. And so you got to converge, right? We know in 2025, there is going to be, going forward, a decrease in high school students graduating, right? So our pipeline is starting to shrink, right? We know we're also in an environment where the question of higher ed is getting raised. The value of the higher ed is getting raised. The value of a liberal arts education is getting questioned. These virtual startup ed tech companies are launching. I follow several of them, and they're raising tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. And you're even having, we got the EY managing partner in here, right? Is she still in here? EY launched their own MBA, right? So now you have even Google launched their own education, right? So the threat on higher ed is like it's never been before, right? And so the importance for us to be innovative and to step out and take some risk is critical at this time, right? And so you're going to see that. You're going to see that. We have a president who's asked us to charge the administration to say, be bold, bring bold ideas, because the new Furman is an innovative Furman. But that means we're going to get a couple of bruises as we try things out, and that's okay, because our competition is no longer just other higher ed institutions. It's these new players coming into the market, and we have a mission we believe in, in developing transformational experiences for lifelong learners. And we're not going to let up on that, right? And so, because we see the value and the importance of the community. And so it's hard. Do we have all the answers? No. I come into our team meetings every week and we talk about a challenge and we just say, well, I don't have the solution, but we got to start picking some, A, B, and C plans and see what works and see what sticks. So I don't know if y'all watch Friends. There's this episode. We have one of my team members sends us out, reminds us in text messages, where Ross and Joey are going up a staircase and the staircase keeps turning. He's trying to take a couch up, and all you hear is pivot, pivot, pivot. That's our life right now. It's like, and we're doing it, and we have fun, and we're learning.
Well, I don't want to keep our audience longer than we have to, but we do want to open it up for questions for you guys. So if you have questions, feel free to ask those. Over here.
Not really a question, just a comment. I was just thinking, like cup half full, how can you fill the other half? I'm just one guy. I've never been to a Furman game. I've never been to a collegiate game of any kind until a week ago. You know why I went? I was invited.
Ah.
I've lived about 10 to 15 minutes from the school for 50 years. I've just never been invited.
And
I think I'll go.
yeah,
all right,
and just
keep coming.
so, but that's a great point because I'm new and not new. Like I've been here for 2 years. I've consistently heard that about Furman. So this is the feedback that I get on Furman, and I live over in Paris Mountain, and it's a great spot to be. But I run into people all the time, and they'll say, "Hey, Furman, great school, beautiful campus. I go by your lake, I bike, but I don't feel included." And that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
I joined Donnelly for that reason.
Oh,
We
excellent.
used to go up and walk, and if there's something fun or interesting to do, this chick's gonna find it.
All right. Yes.
So I'm far from retired, but she dragged me up there. And we went to some stuff Ollie was doing. She convinced me to go on a trip with them. I think we were the only working couple that went on the trip, but we enjoyed it. We enjoyed
Excellent.
it a lot.
But you said something really.
And to set the record straight, I've been to many Furman games.
Oh,
You're good. You're
Yeah.
good.
so you just never
All right.
invited him.
But you,
We haven't been married long.
Okay.
I'm still trying to figure out marriage too. So you're good. We're good. And I'm 15 years in, so I haven't figured it out either. Guys, you said the key thing you said is invited.
Right.
And that's the difference with the Furman today versus the Furman of maybe the past. And I just want to be clear about where we're at with this. You're all invited. And what I mean by that is y'all, I'm not from the north. You guys, that's New York. Y'all are invited. We're at a point now where we have got to open our doors. We've got to open our campus. This is what Anthony's talking about when we're talking about the innovation sector being this connector. When we're talking about bringing Furman downtown, the concept of Furman 101. When we're talking about playing games at the well. When we're talking about strategic partnerships with all of you. When we're talking about football game day experiences. We are stronger together. And what we mean by that is that if we can find a way to connect together and to provide with opportunities that we can give to all of you. So one of the questions that Mary hasn't asked yet is, why is athletics important?
Right.
Athletics is important for an institution, as Craig Brown says very well, because it becomes the front porch for your institution. It is your public address system. It's how you show. It's how you invite. It's how you engage. So a lot of times if you sit in a board meeting, you might say, well, why is this investment in athletics worth it? What is it? It's the ROI on top of what you do. Is it delivering a value add to your community? Is it making the experience better for your students? Is it pulling your faculty and staff together? Is it pulling your alumni in and feeling included? Like I look at Susan Shy. We're Virginia Tech, and Susan's there with her girls. And in the middle of a sea of orange, there's this group of women in purple scarves, dressed to the nines. And it's this pride in Furman in terms of walking through that wave of people. What we're trying to create is an environment that everyone here feels like they're part of our Furman family. The Furman family thing is not a tagline. It's what we're trying to promote in terms of our inclusivity and our desire to be part of this community and our desire for you to feel like you're a part of this. And then how do we help each other? So it's an example of how you help. The best way you can help us at Furman is participate. Come to a game. Join us in our activities. Come to a musical performance. Invite us to be a part of your community service. Allow us to be a part of your campaigns. Consider us one of your partners. When we all act that way together, and this is a call to action, if we can get you to come out to our Weekends at the Well game on January 8th at the Secours Arena and February 5th and February 12th, and I've seen a lot of you there. I've got pictures of Paul Foster on the court cheering and yelling. It's a great experience. Dancing, yes. But when we do all this at Greenville, this is where we're stronger together. And that's the value of a great athletics program. The athletics is intended to bring our community together. We want sold out at the Drive. We want sold out at the Well. We want to embrace these things because the reality is the majority of the people go to a sporting event, they really don't care about the event. They care about the social. They care about being together. They care about integrating and acting. And then that's where idea exchange takes place. The first time I met Anthony was at the Well in a box where he brought all these innovative leaders together. And I stood up there with them and I listened. They weren't really watching the game. They liked that we win. But they were talking about business and they were talking about industry. So if you begin to look at athletics in a different way, it's the front porch. It's a chance for you to have a dialogue. Now here's where it gets really powerful. So I've been fortunate enough to experience a transformational experience through athletics when it goes viral and when it goes national. There's an incredible enthusiasm that you feel when you wear that Diamond F and you walk and you're at the beach or you're at the park or you're in another city or you're in another airport. And I was at Villanova University, which we did really well when we were there, won 2 national championships and 3 Final Fours. But I remember 15 years ago when I got on an elevator and somebody would see that video and they'd say, hey, is that Virginia or Vanderbilt? And if you're Furman here, you've been places, but hey, that F, is that Fordham? So you've been through that. But when your team achieves at a national level and creates that national recognition, and people begin to look at the Diamond F as not, they look at it as Furman, and then they start to engage you with a conversation, because this is starting to happen. Aaron and I have been on the road. It's starting to happen for us. It happened to our president and Charles in New York City just last week. The conversation changes. And then what happens through athletics, it's why it's important, it's the deep dive into the other things. What is Furman all about? They're about innovation. They're about institutes. They're about community service. They're about phenomenal undergraduate education. They're about building an endowment to fund opportunities for diversity and for equity in the community. They're about impact. So that's why I appreciate you coming. So that's a long way of saying thank you for coming. And it's a long way of saying everyone's invited. So Dwight's here. This is our ticket manager.
Everybody gets a season ticket.
You just go to Dwight. He's got you covered. You want to come to a game this weekend? He literally came. If you give him your business card, he'll send you tickets for this weekend. We've got Grayson have got a game. They've got games tomorrow. This is our women's basketball team. Men's basketball game's got a game tonight. They got a game on Sunday. Because we have something going on Furman's campus almost every day. Yeah. It's sometimes exhausting, but it's great success. I want to mention one other thing about athletics. The reason why it's important, this came up in a conversation earlier, we were talking about the Belmont game. Yeah. So our men's basketball team went to Louisville and they beat Louisville, which is one of the biggest and best athletic departments and one of the most profitable in the nation.
Huge.
And honestly, guys, I wasn't that impressed because I expected to win. And I know that sounds crazy, but I saw what our team is doing and we went in there to win. Like, we didn't go there to upset. It wasn't an upset for us. That was just what we're doing. But then we went to Belmont and we played a great game at Belmont, a team that has really invested and has had great success, and we lost in overtime. And there was a conversation amongst our development peers here where they said, hey, that was a bummer. I said, no, it wasn't. It was great. Because our coach made a conscious decision in his scheduling, as opposed to playing an easy game at home against a non-competitive team, he said, I'm going to take on this challenge. I'm going to go play that game, and I'm going to run the risk of not being successful. He could have came out of this week being 1-2. And everyone's saying, hey, Furman basketball is not playing well. It's the reverse. We're 2-1 and we're playing great because we're challenging ourselves. And the whole concept of athletics, where it fits the Furman culture, the best person you can hire in your businesses, and I'm sorry to the regular students that are here, no offense, is to hire a student athlete. Because they consistently experience failure every day. Every day they go through experiences that cause them to not be successful, and they have to learn to develop habits for the most difficult situations. And they have to learn how to go through a process of we fail in athletics every day. And we learn how to fight through that failure. We learn how to have the resolve. It's one of the best things you can have in your life is to have it. The other thing you have is you've got accountability. You got people on a team that pull for each other. Like, I can't wait for Anthony to do everything he wants to do because he's my teammate. And it's so important that Anthony has the success that he has, because the better that Anthony does, the better that we do at Furman, the better our athletic department does. It's the same thing with our advancement team. It's the same thing with our communications team. It's the same thing for all of you. Like I love, Olivia's a friend. I love that Southern Press has gone national because that's ours. That's Greenville. That's Furman. That's a commitment to what we're trying to do. That's how we do this all together. And that's where we get passionate about the opportunities that Furman has.
Well, that's a great way to end this thing.
Sorry.
Huh?
The gates are
Give
open.
Anthony a chance to
Well, I would
chime
say
in
the
on
gates
that.
are open, right? Could I say that? The gates open, come, right? And not only can you come to campus, we're coming downtown. We're coming to Poinsett. We're coming out to the community as well. The invitation is not only through all of our athletic programs and the games, but also Straight Talk. I know Merle Johnson, you called me up and you wanted to come to Straight Talk series, and I said, well, let's get you tickets, right? And so there's so many programs that we have at Furman that are for the community, right? And so we're going to make sure all of you get invitations. A quick show of hands, because we tried something. Some of you are not affiliated with Furman, probably not even sure why you came out here, except for we sent you a note, right? And some of these I was about to send an intern. I'm like, I'm sending the entire C-suite of Michelin a note. I'm either going to get the unsubscribe or they show up, right? So how many of you got an invitation, you're not even affiliated with Furman, you showed up? There's several of you, like, look at that, right? So thank you. Art, more of that's coming. More of that's coming here, right? Not only in the games, right? We're partnering. We have something in the pipeline. Can I go ahead and just share? So I like to say things and then we don't really have all the details figured out.
He does it all the time.
I do it all the time. It drives my team nuts. I was like, here's what we're doing. So we're going to launch an innovative leadership forum, right? We want to see this facility filled every month where we're bringing in a global leader, that is talking about innovation within their domain, within their sphere of influence. We're going to bring these type of leaders to Greenville, not only for our Furman campus and our students. Yes, they need this, but it's for our family. And you're now part of the family. And so we thank you for coming out. We thank you for spending these last 2 hours with us. We hope you enjoyed the breakfast. Thank you to Table 301. Karen, Carl, thank you for catering for us. Janae's live music, entrepreneur. She plays at the piano bar here in town. We got great, look at everything. This event exuberated innovation and entrepreneurship. We even got some, you talk about some of these entrepreneurs in town. Marco, Cadisales, there we go. Connor, Campfire. I met with them 2 years ago. They probably had about 8 employees. How many employees now at Campfire? 60. That's what this is about. Yeah. Soccer athlete, co-founder, right? And now here in town, 60 employees, right? Just like Foster Victor. How many employees? You started with 0, so when you started. I'm pretty good, okay? I didn't go to Furman, but I got my numbers. How many do you have now? 25. That's what this is about. Change is happening. The movement's happening here in Greenville. Furman's glad to be here. We're lockstep with the city, and we look forward to our next event. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. And as always, thank you so much for choosing the Class E podcast. Before I let you go, a big announcement. Now you have 2 ways to soak up the information and discussions shared in the Class E podcast. We've launched the Class E podcast YouTube channel. So check that out and watch our episodes there, or of course you can find the audio version wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, watch out for our brand new short segments coming soon, Everyday Entrepreneur. Learn in brief how everyday people become entrepreneurs as they share their stories with us. The Hill Institute is excited to announce another packed cohort of 25 aspiring entrepreneurs for the Greenville Starts program. This is an 8-week experience put on in partnership with the City of Greenville, South Carolina Department of Commerce, and SCRA that delivers the training, connections, and access to capital for startups of all types who are launching or growing their ventures in Greenville, South Carolina. If this program sounds like something you or a friend might be interested in or want to apply, simply Google Greenville Starts. Remember, the Class E podcast is made possible through a partnership between the Hill Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship and the Communication Studies Department here at Furman University. This episode is produced by students Emma Kerr and Eliza Polich. I'm your host, Mary Sturgill. Until next time, dream big, everybody.